Noob D Dad here, and we are talking about session 34 of my son's campaign at the Woodland Manse in the Dragon of Icespire Peak. So with this session, I mentioned before that the guy at Falcon's Hunting Lodge, Falcon, is going to give them fancy sneaky boots, that they all of the players wanted them. The 3 players wanted the sneaky boots. And so they decided to have a stealth off so that throughout the Woodland Manse mission, whoever, I guess, had the most successful stealth checks would deserve the elven sneaky boots. So I tried to make sure there's a lot of opportunities for that. But I think there's kind of a lot of opportunities for it anyway. But especially in a mission where there's a building and you could possibly sneak into it and it's a really big building. So like I mentioned last time, these guys are outside of room W9 planning to make entry, and there's nobody in it, but there are people inside of W18. Right here it says that there's orcs in there, and what are they doing? Okay, they're sharpening their weapons in anticipation of the attack on Falcon's Hunting Lodge. But one thing I always love to do with orcs, I love running orcs. So if the players, if the orcs are unaware of the players, I like to just have the orcs being orcs. So I like just having them like laughing and the occasional like fighting, and typically they'll have bonfires. One of the things I love doing with orcs is that they will always have a fire inside of a building, because typically orcs are found, at least in this campaign, they've been found inside of a structure that's not theirs. And so I like to have them have lit like a campfire in the room, like literally a flammable room. And then they're always roasting like rotisserie chickens and eating chickens and just like farting and being gross and stuff. And so my players are sitting outside of this door, and they're just sitting there planning forever. And I talk about how you hear multiple orcs and you do hear the weapons sharpening, but I think it's boring to just say they're sharpening weapons. That's why I like to add like eating noises and yelling and fighting noises and like farting noises and stuff. And this is super gross, but it makes my little 9-year-old laugh. But like eventually like pee starts coming through the ceiling, right? Because there's already like holes in the ceiling. So just like showing that they're up there and they're just being gross. And also to try and urge the players to act, because sometimes they plan for too long. And so I'll literally interrupt their planning and be like, this thing is happening, or you hear this thing, to try and get them to move along. Do you guys ever have your players planning for so long that you feel like you need to interrupt it? Is that something you do? So they decide to have the warrior sneak in through here and then sneak across here and into W5. So as they're going through there, if the orcs have not been dealt with, you hear them, right? So he can hear the orcs as he sneaks through, and there's vines coming through. And I made sure to make a note, like so that as he was sneaking through, that he sees these vines like moving, so that you know that it's not just a big tree. So our fighter is like the least careful member of the group, and so he goes over here and just like YOLOs it up the stairs. So if you look in W3, like the stairs are totally trapped. And he ends up just crashing through the stairs, taking like 15 piercing damage or something. And that's a pretty loud noise. And so then I'm flipping through the book being like, okay, what? Because there's all these triggers in the book. And that's one thing I appreciate of the Dragon of Icespire Peak, is it's like, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. And then also I can add to it. So I go through and I'm like, okay, if there's a loud noise, this happens. So basically all the orcs that were in that other room drop down into the room that my son and friend are still outside of looking in. And that triggers them to shoot a fireball. But then the room with the giant tree in it also gets full of people, according to like the triggers. Everyone goes in there. And one thing I like about D&D is tracking the stuff on the map, even if the players can't see it. So as like time is passing, or as noises are made, right? Because people like to do thunder waves and make loud noises. I like to look at the map and be like, okay, who heard this and where are they moving to? So like some video games, like the NPCs just appear, but I like in D&D where I can literally just track them and be like, here's where they are. And you're going to see in a minute here, they're going to do a short rest, and I'm still tracking a fire that's going and other NPCs and creatures. So like I said, when the orcs drop down into that W9, my son just launches a fireball in there, And this building, like it's kind of worn down, right? And and I have it a little bit soggy of a building, um, which will play into how fast fire spreads through it. But they just launch a fireball and it like nukes all these guys. And, you know, flaming rotisserie chickens just come flying out and pieces of orcs and stuff. But they just launched a fireball into a flammable building. So it immediately destroys that room, and the room above it collapses, and a fire is starting to spread in both directions that I'm going to start tracking. Side note on fire in D&D. So tracking fire in D&D and how the characters react to it is part of the reason that I got into D&D, is because I wanted to do fires. Is that weird? I have a firefighting background, wildland firefighting, so just around a ton of fire and in fire and starting fires. And oh, here's a little picture. See that right there? Boop, that's me. Anyway, and I mentioned this in my early video, but I really wanted to, because of the Hawaii fires and just people getting trapped in fires, and like what decisions you make when those things are happening to you, and then also with the California fires. So not that I'm like making light of those situations, but in this game world, I like to create fires and be like, okay, players, how are you going to deal with this? Are you going to try and stop it? Are you going to avoid it? Like, are you going to make it worse? Like, or, okay, players, things are flammable. Like, are you going to be responsible with your fire powers or whatever, right? So, just as a side note, I just love doing fire. And I know some of you have asked me for like my equations for fire spreading in D&D. I don't really have equations. I almost just, and I know this is kind of a cop-out, but I almost just dig into my immense fire knowledge and just think how much it would spread. But we'll get into that in a minute, because some fire does spread during a short rest. Okay, so the players, they run around to go meet their buddy, and then he's going out the front door. I think they talked on a sending stone or something. But my son and my friend are in the building, and then the fighters outside the building, and they're fighting by themselves. And so I usually, when a monster could realistically attack any of the friendlies, I like to randomly assign who they attack so that I don't favor people. But in this case, the fighter was the only one out there, and so they're just attacking him, while my son and my friend are doing ranged attacks from inside the building, right? Because there's boars and anchorites. And I love doing lightning bolts as the opening move. And I typically just draw the battle on a paper. Like, I draw like the side of the building and like dots for each player, write their initiative down, or maybe their health, and then just like cross people off as they die, so that I can, because I do theater of the mind, but I do draw pictures for myself, so that when they say who's closest to me, I can answer their questions of where everyone is. Occasionally I'll show something to them, like draw something or put little dots out, but we really don't use figurines, and it seems to go really well. Like, we're all just using our imaginations. So they had that battle. I'm not going to narrate the battle, but they decided that they needed a short rest. And there's times where I want to fight them on their ability to take a rest. I want to be like, no, like, there's too many bad guys. But they're like, no, we're going to go out into the forest, like, we're going to rest. And I'm like, okay, sure. So you're resting for this amount of time. So the players are using their hit dice, and my friend's eating pumpkin seeds, and I'm just sitting there, like, rubbing my hands together, like, yes. Because if they eat, 5 servings in an hour, they might get poisoned. So I'm just sitting there like, get poisoned. But he only ate 2, so I was like, okay, fine. Okay, and during the short rest, this isn't meant to be legible. So basically, I take the existing dots of where I had people, and I rotated them around, right? And then the building is burning during the rest. So 9 and 18 are already destroyed from the fireball. And then as far as the fire goes, let's see, where's W? I say that half of W12 is consumed in fire. The secret room got consumed in fire. And then I think I had it going this way too. Let's see, W17, just a second. So I had the fire moving in that direction as well. So literally, if the players want to go back and explore, like, the building is actually changed now. Like, there's smoke in the building, smoke up towards on the ceiling, and Places they could go are gone now, and items they could find are destroyed or whatever. So there's consequences to their actions. So the reason, like I said earlier, the reason the fire spread only that much is because I'm having the building be pretty like damp, if that makes sense. Like the walls are kind of like saturated, so that it's not like a dry stick, right? It has to, the radiant heat has to evaporate the water, and then as it gets closer and closer, it starts preheating the dried parts, and then that can eventually catch. So yeah, it's a slower spread, but still it's getting destroyed. I don't know if you guys care to find out what they looted on the bodies, but there were 2 anchorites, and I had them roll in the old DMG because in this session we're still on the old rules. So he rolled a 55 on the D100, which means he got 9 bloodstones, and then he got a roll on table A, so he got a potion of healing, and then they got a level 1 scroll of cure wounds in their looting, these guys. So that's it for session 34. Session 35, they go into the manse as it is burning, and there's still all those characters in there, and then the other characters have shifted, so it's quite a battle next time. So please stay tuned. I love that so many of you are following me along on this adventure as a noob DM. And let me just say, this thing that came in what's called the Essentials Kit, like I think I got it for like $11, between $11 and $15. This has provided so much fun and adventuring. Like I just can't believe, like, this little flimsy like 64-page book has just been so much fun. And that's what I did. I bought the starter set, and I'm like, let's try this. Let's try D&D, right? Like I have played 3.5 a long time ago, and then the movie came out and kind of got me sparked again to play it again. And I was like, I want to be the DM. I want to do this. I want to create this world around these players, and I want them to know that like they can do anything. Like, yes, I want them to follow objectives and stay on task, but they can literally like, oh, what's under this table, and I will have an answer for them. It might just be dust bunnies and a piece of corn, but I want to be able to answer that question so that the world feels real to them, and just so that they have many choices. And then on the other end, I need to provide them with triggers so that they can make like moral decisions and such, and also peril to raise their heart rate. So anyway, Woodland Manse, I really like running it. It is a huge map with lots to do, and there is a lot of action on the next one. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye.